Okay, Noam, we have a question about education, higher education, and popular education. What do you recommend for people who want to study at university level, but cannot afford it and do not want to get tangled up in loans and debt?
Well, what they ought to do, I mean, you can't answer the question for an individual, but we should be answering it collectively. So we should be asking, for example, why are there costs for higher education? Why isn't it like secondary education? And again, that's not a strange question. There's certainly no economic basis for it. If you look around the world today, the richest, most successful countries have free, virtually free higher education. So Germany, which is the most successful of the modern state capitalist societies, higher education is virtually free. Finland, which comes out at the top in almost all international competitions, free, so on across the board. If you go to poor countries, just go south of the border to Mexico, poor country, quite a respectable higher education system. I've been there and taught. It's quite respectable, high quality. It has problems like very low salaries, so the faculty have to have second jobs, but that's because it's a very poor country. Education's free. Take a look at our own country. In the 1940s and 1950s, 50s and 60s, the great growth period, highest growth period in American society, higher education was virtually free. For a huge number of people, it was not only free but subsidized, namely those beneficiaries of the GI Bill. People who never would have gone to college were enabled to do so. Very good for themselves, very good for the country. Contributed to successful economic growth. Even private colleges, like Ivy League colleges, though they had tuition, it was extremely low. I entered the University of Pennsylvania in Ivy League College in 1945. Tuition was $100. That would be maybe $800 by today's real value, and you could easily get a scholarship. So it was essentially free. It was a much poorer country then. The U.S. today is far richer than it was in that period. I think if you think it through, there can't really be an economic reason for this. There are other reasons, not good reasons. You can think what they might be. But I think in answer to the question, an individual is stuck. That person is stuck with what exists. But as part of a collective, that person is not stuck. They can be part of an effort to reverse the programs of the past, the policies of the past 30 years, roughly 30, 40 years, which have led to the situation in which young people are trapped for life with debt that they cannot get rid of. Notice that I'm sure you know this, the policies are set up so that you can't declare bankruptcy like a business. The government can garnish your Social Security. You're trapped for life. A highly disciplinary measure, incidentally. And I don't think there's any justification for it. Like other things, individually you can't do much about it. Collectively you could do quite a lot. What gives you hope? People like you. That's the hope of the future. The future's in your hands. There's a lot that can be done despite all the problems of the country. It's actually a much more civilized country than it was 50 years ago. Much more, in all kinds of ways. The rights of women, for example, all sorts of other things. That didn't come as a gift, came out of popular struggle, often pretty hard. But it left a legacy to us. We benefit from it. It kind of gives us a plateau from which to go on. Plenty of problems. In fact, the worst problems in human history. But they can be addressed. And people like you are in a position to address them. And that's where the hope is.